Okay, so this is part two of the how to know God's will and God's purpose for your life, right? So we were talking about the family that had focused on it, and their story unfortunately ended in peril. And of course, the Christian response to that is going to be, well, it's not our ways, it's God's ways. God knows what he wants, and if God decided that he wanted to put that family through that, then that's his will, and he's just in his thinking. You know, the problem with that is that there's a lot of unnecessary suffering that had happened because of that. And the reality of his situation is that he created God's will for his life out of his pride. He was a very proud person, and he was very involved in church, a bit of a coarse personality. But when they caught the cancer, it was stage 1, 2 years earlier, and it would have been a very easy surgery, and he could have been there for his family and all that. But he let his pride get in the way, and his family was so supportive of him. Not all of his family. His kids were really upset that he was taking the route that he was doing, but he was telling his kids, look, no, I know that this is God's will for my life and all this kind of stuff, you know? But what ended up happening was he was so focused on his pride, on his ability to procreate, and on, you know, him showing what I can do kind of thing, and that ended up killing him. And now his wife is a widow and having to support 6 kids on a McDonald's salary. So it's not great of an ending. It's not a great ending to the story. But because of this, she has been going through extreme torment in her life, and her kids are very skeptical of Christianity and all this kind of stuff. And whenever, this is where I think you can easily find God's will for your life. I'll show you, or I'll tell you how I found my opinion of what God's will for my life is. But whenever, so let's just get into that. So whenever I was in church and stuff like that, and I was going through college, I was becoming slightly atheistic because, you know, that's what you teach the first 2 years of college, especially when you're studying science. I studied biomedical science, and the first 2 years, it's just atheism shoved down your throat, you know. Well, technically all 4 years, it's atheism shoved down your throat. The first 2 years, you tend to believe it, and then the last 2 years, you start to see, nah, there's just no way that this can just be at random. Like, there is no way that this can just occur, you know. The sheer complexity of life on this planet and everything like that. It's like there is zero way that this just happened, you know. Especially of how delicate all of the balancing is. But, so in that period of time, I decided I was going to pray a very specific prayer. And it's, looking back, it's the best prayer that I've ever prayed in my life. Going through it, I regretted every single word of that prayer. But essentially what it was I give up what I think. I give up my thoughts. I give up everything that I care about. I give up my religion. I give up everything. And I just prayed to God. I said, I want your will to come through me and, you know, hit me like a train kind of thing. You don't have to be that intense with it, I guess. But I just told him, I was like, I want your will for my life, and I want you to put me on the path that I'm supposed to be. Because at the time I was a bit an emotional free fall. My wife and I were getting a divorce, which I could not fathom because we were both Christian. And as you may not know, Christianity's firm stance in divorce, for the more kind of relative Christian, like the big Christian churches, they don't really touch on divorce. But if you go read into the Bible, there's only very specific reasons why you should ever divorce your spouse. And it says it in the Bible. I forget which verses. It's been long ago, and I used to read it. I'm like, okay, I can't get a divorce because of this. I can't get a divorce because of this. This isn't the situation. This isn't the situation, because, we really just got divorced over finances. And I, I would tell my wife, I'm like, look, this isn't God's will. This is not God's will. Meanwhile, I was sitting here praying, God, put me on the path that you want me to be on. And next thing you know, we're going through a divorce. I'm like, this is not God's will, because it says in the Bible that we are not allowed to get a divorce unless this and this and this and all this kind of stuff, right? Well, sure enough, I couldn't keep her. She ended up leaving, and it was kind of funny because, well, we won't get into that. I'll just make a separate video of that. But so we ended up going through a divorce, and I remember being extremely upset at God, because I was sitting here praying, hey, God, put me on the path that I'm supposed to be on. Why did you just make me divorced? Now I feel like I'm even farther away from the path that I'm supposed to be on, because now I have all this to go through, And so I was thinking that God was going to put me on a missions trip or something like that, And next thing you know, I'm on a divorce route. And this came about from me just trying to seek the truth and trying to find God in my everyday life. And I just couldn't fathom the entire thing, because for me, it was me, although I was feeling a stronger connection to God, I was also doing more against Christianity things. And I was like, this isn't right, And so I started to just really pray, and God kept bringing in these situations into my life to test me. And, at a certain point, I was just 100% surrendered. I was like, you know what? I don't care. I don't care if I ever get married again. I don't care if I ever have independence again. At this point, show me what you want me to do, because I'm tired of trying to do my own thing. And, when I said that, probably within 6 months, now keep in mind, guys, 6 months, that's a long time of day to day to day to day, just sitting there in agony. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And although I felt God's presence in my life every step of the way, there just wasn't anything coming. Nothing was being offered to me. No positions were being offered to me. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to take my life into my own hands. And I remember praying about it. And God didn't necessarily tell me no. He didn't necessarily tell me yes. It was more of a do what you want to do kind of thing. And I was like, no, this isn't, what in the world, God? Like, you spoke to, Moses. You spoke to Moses in a pillar of fire to part the waters. Like, why can't you be straight up with me? So I did what I felt was best for me at the time. And it has been the single best thing that I've ever done in my life. I moved away from the church that I was with. I moved away from my family, who were incredibly Christian, toxically Christian. And I found my will, if you would, being alone in another city, connected to nature, because that's where God is. And God isn't inside of sheetrock and wires and bricks and plastic carpeting and, plastic chairs and enamel coated everything. God's not there. God's in nature. That's what he created. God created nature. God didn't create the, polyurethane coated wooden bench that you're sitting on at the church praying to, begging for him to show his will. He's not there. He's in nature. That he's where he created everything. It's like whenever God walked with Adam and Eve in the garden, it was in the garden. It didn't say God walked with Adam and Eve at the temple. God walked with Adam and Eve at, this little tiny building made out of completely man-made materials. No, whenever they were in their purity, when they're in their essence of being, God was with them in the garden, in his creation. And that's the thing that's where you'll find God's will for your life, because that's where I found mine. So I moved to a completely different state, a very beautiful state, a gorgeous state. And I just spent as much time as I could in nature. And I went out there, I prayed, I meditated, I sat with nature, I sat with the animals, I sat with the rivers, I sat with the glaciers, I sat with everything. And after a while, it really hit me like a ton of bricks what God's will in my life was. And I'm not going to tell you because I don't want you to copy that, okay? It's your life, it's your will, and it's your connection to God. And I don't want to tell you what mine is because then that's going to taint your view of what yours should be. So, but I just wanted to let you know that you can find God's will for your life. It is a thing, but it's not the thing you're focusing on. So, good luck. Pray to God. He will show you the way if you ask him to. And if you beg him, he'll show you even harder. So careful with the begging. But I'll see you later.